Hello, everyone. We are so happy you're back to Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan. We are here to encourage you to live a life of significance and success, full of courage and determination, the type of life that God created you to live. I am your host, Virginia Prodan. I'm an international human rights attorney, a speaker, a writer of my book published by Tyndale, Saving My Assassin. I'm so glad you are here, and I want to welcome each one of you. We have today John Gordon, legal analyst, host of Palm Beach based national syndicate radio show and podcast, The Truth with John Gordon. John Gordon was a Trump-endorsed Republican candidate for Georgia Attorney General in 2022, and now he lives in Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you so very much, John, for coming to our podcast. Your heart is for what is going on with the man accused of assassinating Turning Point USA founder Charlie Clerk, who was for the first time in person last Thursday after almost 3 months after his arrest. It looks like Charlie Kirk's widow and numerous media outlets, including Fox News, have raised alarm about the limited public access to filing and closed-door developments. And you are here to talk about those situations and to analyze and respond and how the prosecutor intend to process, and also the type of evidence like they will emerge, and whether the judge in the last appearance last Thursday addressed ongoing transparency challenges. Thank you so much, John, for coming here.
My pleasure. Thank you, and happy holidays to you and your listeners.
First of all, I am very, very I want to know, your podcast is called The Truth. In a society where everybody has the truth, and my truth is not your truth, and so forth. What's the significance? For me, as a Christian, the truth is Jesus Christ. So what is the significance of your truth, and what do you want to do and reach with your podcast and your radio?
I'm sorry, Virginia, no disrespect intended. I strongly disagree with your assertion that there are different variations of the truth. I just don't buy that. I mean, the truth is singular, and it is what is real. I mean, what can we agree on? Can we agree that today is Monday?
Yeah.
Okay. And can we agree that we're recording this at 12:14?
Well, today is the 15th.
No, I said that we're recording at 12:15 p.m.
Would you say again?
We are recording this at 12:15 p.m.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, those are truths. We've agreed on two truths. It's Monday. It's December the 15th, and we're recording at 12:14 p.m. No, those aren't shades of truth. They're not variations of the truth. That's just the truth. 12:15. I guess we have to add Eastern Standard Time to be precise. So to me, the truth is very crystal clear. And I think that as a society, I've been experimenting in my own mind with this thought. Rob Reiner was murdered by his own son over the weekend. And our culture has become very toxic, I think. Charlie Kirk was murdered. Someone tried to murder Donald Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania on July 13th, 2024. These are horrible, despicable acts. And I'm concerned that our culture has become so argumentative. Each side has dug their heels in and have become dogmatic. And there is just a level of conflict that I feel we need to, as a society, work together to try and turn down the flame. So rather than talking about what we disagree on, I wonder if as a nation we could agree to talk about what we agree on. Can we agree that on the sanctity of life? Oh, you don't agree on the sanctity of life? Well, what about the sanctity of your life? Could we agree that your life is important and valuable and cannot be taken away? Where can we agree? Can we agree that your home is your castle and that no one can enter unlawfully? Can we agree that public buildings belong to us all and you have no right to deface them, burn them, tear them down? Can we agree that there is a God? Now, you and I share the same God, but what if we don't? What if someone else prays to another God? Personally, I would love everyone to pray to my God, but I am not dogmatic enough to insist on that. I think can we agree that people should be free to worship their own God? Now, I would like that God that they worship to believe in the sanctity of life, that a man or a woman's home is their castle, that destruction of property should not be able to be tolerated in our culture, that one spouse is theirs and theirs alone, and that can we agree that adultery or trying to interfere with a marriage is against their religion and their tenets? If we can start to enumerate the things that we agree on that respect each other, I just think it would be a much more pleasant place to live. So when you ask me about the truth, I think there's only one truth. When we're talking about facts, that's what I would like to see us get to. And then if truth is the lowest common denominator, then we can start problem solving.
And continuing what you said, and I agree with you. And one of the things that Charlie Kirk did is he tried to give people microphone to express their point of view in order for us to be able to communicate with each other. And I believe one of the reasons he was killed is because people started to see that we can agree with each other, even if we don't agree on anything, but we can be civilized, we can talk with each other. And the fact that many of young people started to listen more, it was maybe a danger or something that people that did not agree with Charlie Kirk consider that his voice needs to be shut. And
well, I have this suspicion that there is something very subversive going on in our country. I think that you can look across the globe and see evidence of those same influences of evil. And I ask myself every day, who's behind the curtain? Who's the wizard? Who is bringing this chaos into all of our lives? And unfortunately, there are a lot of uneducated people in our country, in the world, that will cling to emotional triggers rather than look for fundamental and hard facts on which to base their judgments. So when George Floyd died, we were told that it was a act of racial hatred, and uh, large numbers of people bought into that. I just think it was a guy that was hyped up on drugs who picked a fight with a cop, and the cop won. I mean, I'm sorry. Cop was white, the victim was black. Okay, I'm very sorry, but I don't think that that necessarily makes it a racial hate crime. In that case, the officer clearly abused his authority and should be, as he was, held accountable for it. But I think all of the truth should have been exposed. I think that the national media should have exposed that George Floyd had a cocktail of drugs in his body, that he had been arrested. I don't remember now how many times, but it was a lot. And that he had prior evidence of violent behavior. I also think it would have been helpful to have known that George Floyd and that policeman had a prior knowledge of one another. They worked together as bouncers in the same bar, leading me to ask, was there more to the story than what we were allowed to know? And so I'm for 100% transparency, except in instances of national security where legitimately they just can't talk about it. In those cases, I will defer to our leaders to say, I'd like to tell you, I just can't. It would not be in your best interest, nor the country's. But with that limited exclusion, I think all else is fair game. And I have not been an advocate of full release of the Epstein files because I believe as Donald Trump does, they quote him as saying, it will hurt people. Yes, that's right. And what they neglect to point out, I don't think he was talking about it will hurt the bad guys. I think he was inferring that it would hurt potentially innocent people. Jeffrey Epstein was a socialite in New York. He came in contact with thousands of people, lots of whom, before they found out who he was and what he was, wanted their picture taken with them. Does that make them culpable of anything? Should their lives be shattered, their careers destroyed, and possibly their marriages and family divided because they had a selfie with Jeffrey Epstein? I think that's a very dangerous thing. What I do fervently want to know, and what my suspicions is leading me or are leading me to believe, is that our own government and possibly Mossad were involved with Jeffrey Epstein. And that's what's being hidden and covered up. And that's the truth that I want exposed.
And how do you think that can be possible to be exposed?
Well, you just release the files. And if you want to redact the people who are named in those files, it's okay with me. I mean, I am not fixated on identifying people who had illicit sexual relationships outside of their marriage and possibly with underage girls, as despicable as that is, and as much as it should be condemned. I'm not fixated on that. I'm not saying that we should protect them, but I'm not obsessed about that. What I am obsessed about is whether our own government sponsored this honey trap that seemed to be designed to ensnare powerful people in compromising positions so that they could later be blackmailed and made to conduct themselves and vote or do whatever it is somebody demanded that they do because they had pictures of them in compromising positions. That's what I suspect. I'm that far from being able to say I believe it. Howard Lutnick, the Secretary of Commerce, said that he visited Jeffrey Epstein at his mansion, who happened to live next door to him. Oh, yeah. He also visited with his wife. And after they were given a tour of the mansion and they had some casual conversation, they both said they felt creepy and wanted to get the hell out of there.
So from
And
the
he
past,
said that he was a blackmailer, that was his core competency, is that he went around blackmailing people and extorting them for money and God knows what else. So that's what I want to know. That's the truth I want to learn.
I totally understand, because when the government start to do those kind of things, it has power over people to destroy their lives and also to gain power over the rest of us. So
Well,
from the past experience with all this situation, what are the points that came to your mind after Tyler Robinson appearance, and what do you think the judge did right or not, balancing all this, and what exactly he needs to do more?
I don't think the verdict is in yet on this judge. He's new to the bench. He's been there less than a year. My first impression was not favorable. He issued a wide spreading gag order and said that anyone who was a witness, potentially a witness, could not talk about the case. Well, there were 3,500 people on that university campus that in Utah that were witnesses to the crime. Now, does that mean they cannot speak? Well, he later clarified his order and restricted it to people who were actually going to be called as witnesses or who were on a likely witness list. I guess that's appropriate. There is a balancing act. I mean, and what the judge has to decide is what is in the public interest to know versus what should be kept under wraps, ensuring that Tyler Robinson can get a fair and impartial trial. And at first, I thought that the judge was maybe conducting a trial that would not be fair to Tyler Robinson. I mean, I've got so many suspicions and concerns about the assassination of Charlie Kirk. If someone pointed a gun at me right now and said, "You tell me what you think, did Tyler Robinson kill Charlie Kirk?" I would say no. I don't believe it. And I believe that we're being sold a bill of goods. I don't know who did. There are a lot of people that are very, very suspicious. So, for where the judge is concerned, I have moved more to neutral on him than I started out. I think he is trying to bend over backwards to make sure that Tyler Robinson is treated fairly and gets a fair trial. But right now, if the measure of guilt is a beyond a reasonable doubt, I don't know how anyone could convict Tyler Robinson of killing Charlie Kirk. There's so many anomalies and so many things that don't add up. But my concern is that it'll be swept under the rug, that he will become the scapegoat. He will not get a fair trial. Maybe it would not surprise me if they kill him. He knows whether he did it or not. And I do think he had involvement. I don't know the level of involvement. If I had not had 62 years of education around the Kennedy assassination, I would be much more willing to buy the lines, the story. But having studied the Kennedy assassination for 62 years, having visited the grassy knoll multiple times, traced Kennedy's footsteps, traced Oswald's footsteps, gone to the jail where Ruby shot him, read book after book after book, and watched documentary after documentary after documentary. And I spoke to John Connolly before he died. I've talked to a lot of other people. I've talked to Lee Harvey Oswald's mistress, and I've talked to Robert Groden, who released the Zapruder film on Geraldo Rivera. I think it was in 1975, I think. So I've dug pretty deep. And there's little doubt in my mind today that Lyndon Johnson ordered the assassination, Allen Dulles carried it out, and J. Edgar Hoover covered it up with the help of the mob. So I think if anyone bothers to look and invest the time to research the truth about John F. Kennedy, they will draw the same conclusion that I have, along with hundreds, if not thousands, of journalists, scholars, researchers, historians. They all come to the same conclusion once you get down the rabbit hole. So, with that background, I'm very suspicious of the narrative that we have been told that Tyler Robinson, a 19-year-old who had no real training in archer or shooting, he was not an expert marksman, and how convenient that he was living with a trans person, so they're able to stamp that seal on him. And that we're told and are expected to believe that Tyler Robinson got up on that roof, put the gun together, which you can't do in a minute, assembled the gun, made the shot, disassembled the gun, ran off the roof into the woods where he put it back together and left it on neatly laid on a blanket. Are we governed by FCC rules on this broadcast? I don't think so. So I just say BS. A big BS, all capital letters, bold print, exclamation point.
How do you think that the prosecutor intend to proceed, and what kind of evidence will be likely to emerge?
I don't know. You know, they manufactured evidence against Oswald. Of course, he never stood trial. They killed him. They killed him because he was the one person that could have blown the lid off the story. He wasn't the one person. He was one of 100 people who they killed to silence, like Dorothy Kilgallen, who was a New York journalist who went to Dallas and interviewed Jack Ruby. She came home and told her best friend over the phone that to read the paper this week that she was going to blow the lid off the Kennedy assassination. The next morning, she was found dead in her bed with barbiturates strewn around her like Marilyn Monroe.
It's very
so I don't know how the prosecution will reveal itself. I'm watching and listening with a lot of interest.
It's very interesting, the analogy that you're making between those two cases, and the points that you make on that. We know that we have a system, and we hope that we have a system that will work, and we just trust that the system will bring the truth in this case. And there is anything that you want to add before I let you go?
Well, I want you and your listeners to have a Merry Christmas and a happy, healthy, safe, prosperous New Year. I want the discord turned down in our country. And I think that we need to start a new conversation. And I'll leave you with what I started with. I think we need to change the dialogue and ask one another on what can we agree. And I suspect the list is going to be much, much longer than the list on what do we disagree. And we need to celebrate our humanity and our lives together and this glorious, wonderful world that we get to live on with fresh air and clean water and an abundance of food and shelter and all the things that God has given us. That's what we need to focus on. And we have somehow gotten to this knee-jerk reaction of disagreement. And it's splitting families. There are families right now who cannot have Christmas lunch together because of political disagreements. How stupid is that? How utterly stupid is it? So I've got 3 adult sons, and when I go visit my son in Los Angeles, I arrive and I said, I routinely say, my goal is to end this visit and look back on our time together pleasantly, and let's just avoid things that we disagree on, unless we really need to talk about them, and then that's okay too. But I'm talking, if we have a personal issue between us, absolutely, we're going to hash that out. But if we're going to talk about whether I love Trump and you hate Trump, we're just not going to go there, because we're going to accomplish nothing. I'm not going to change your mind. You're not going to change my mind, likely, even though I am very open to receiving information on any subject, but not when it's just to spew hate. And, you know, I watched somebody today. Well, it was the actor in Pretty Woman, Richard Gere. And he said the president of the United States is a thug. Well, I'm not interested in receiving that information. And a liar, I think he added. I think those were his words. He's a liar and a thug. I'm not interested. I'm sorry. Just I shut him off. Now, if you want to say Donald Trump lied about fill in the blank and give me information, then I'm very open to receiving it. But, you know, we're just going around labeling people in vile, hateful, mean terms. And I don't think it's productive, and it needs to stop. So on that note, on what can we agree? And I hope that we can all agree, let's have a happy and Merry Christmas.
I agree with you totally. Let's have a Merry Christmas, a wonderful, enjoyment one with all the family together, and build unity among us, because we can do that. We don't have to wait for the government or for media. We have to start in our own house, in our own business, in our own community, and the unity will spread around in the United States of America. Thank you so very much, John, for your participation. We hope that you took all the notes and everything that John shared with us. Feel free to share our podcast, Courageous Leadership with Virginia Prodan, or go to virginiaprodanbooks.com/contact and contact us, and we will be more than happy to help you in any way possible. Until next time, our podcast is always Wednesday and Saturday at 10 o'clock. Thank you so very much. Thank you, John, for your participation.
My pleasure. You can write to me, johngordontruth@gmail.com.
Perfect. Thank you so very much. Don't forget to go to the link that John shared with you. God bless you. Bye-bye.